Hello and welcome to the DP World Tour preview show. I am your host, Mark Hill, and we are here for the Porsche European Open 2022 event at Green Eagle Golf Course just outside Hamburg in Germany. No show last week. We've been off for a couple of weeks since the PGA Championship. Didn't manage to get a show in the books last week with the Dutch Open, but to be honest, the selections I was going to put up, that is no bad thing as they crashed and burned dramatically. Did have a brief look at the eventual winner, Victor Perez, given the overlap with Kings Barnes and the course designer there. But no, it really wasn't a good tournament for myself privately, and glad that publicly I wasn't putting out any plays. But we're going to turn it around this week. We are going to have some green screens and we're going to have some winning tickets at the European Open. I have full faith in that as we head to Germany. So the tournament itself, we'll have a course breakdown, some key stats. I have 5 outright selections that we're going to go into in more detail and some DFS bits and pieces, and then we'll round out with the best bet. The Tour Junkies Network, it is busy at the minute. The guys, DP and Pat, are churning out video after video for the Memorial Tournament side of things. Outside of that, we have the kid, Garrett Simmons, also putting stuff out. I think it's the Rex Hospital Open this week, so keep an eye out for that on the Corn Ferry Tour. And then we have lots and lots of juicy tidbits as well in the Nut Hut, so do get involved and sign up where you can. Let's jump across to where we are playing this week, and it is Green Eagle Golf Club in Hamburg, Germany. This is a number of different courses sort of molded into one at the Green Eagle Resort. This time around, it is going to be a par 72, 7,603 yards, so lengthy in nature, but doesn't necessarily play that long as such. Reasonably generous fairways in play, water in play as well on 17 out of the 18 holes, so are tending to gravitate towards more accurate golfers this week off the tee. But all that said, one of my headline selections is not necessarily the most accurate off the tee, but we'll get to that shortly. A number of long par 5s in play. The 16th is 705 yards, the 18th is 603 yards. So what I was looking back though at the stats though, and from par 5 scoring wasn't necessarily replicated in terms of long-term ability at this tournament. Some of the previous winners, so we have had the European Open at various venues over the years. It happened in the UK and Ireland for a number of seasons. Since 2017, we have switched back to this venue at Green Eagle Golf Course. So we have four years course history in the bag to have a look at, see if there's any trends emerging. In 2017 was won by Jordan Smith, one of the top of the board betting board members this week. He won at 40-1 with 13 under par. That year played particularly soft, wet weather, effectively lengthened and widened the course as a result. 2018, Richard McAvoy, shorter hitter, 125-1, 11 under par, drier course that time around, which brought him into play. 2019, Paul Casey, 7-1 winner, 14 under par. All top 5 finishers ranked inside the top 20 when it came to accuracy off the tee for that particular renewal. Then we had a break in 2020, and in 2021, it came back with Marcus Armitage winning at 80-1, which is a 54-hole tournament reduced due to COVID at the time. He won with a score of 8 under par. So quite a wide range of golfers there in terms of leaderboards, in terms of eventual winners for the tournaments. So not necessarily having a stereotype in mind. It's not necessarily a bomber's paradise, considering it is a longer course at 7,600, but we're going to weigh that all up when we break down the betting card. Previous eye catchers for me, there was a few stood out. I'm going to get into some of them in the DFS side of things, but I was looking at some of the underlying stats that did well. Strong tee to green game, approach play, goes hand in hand week to week, not necessarily needing to be a strong putter. We've seen a number of golfers who have trended well here coming in, not necessarily done particularly well with the flat stick, and then resulted in wins on the board for them. Or top 5, top 10 finishes. So definitely quite a versatile golfer I'm looking. Don't mind a little bit of aggression. The water aspect definitely has to be respected, but I'm not going to necessarily overweight it. And large undulating greens in play in excellent condition. So do look at someone who can take advantage of that side of it. Weather-wise this week in Hamburg, only the Thursday's really going to be weather affected. A bit of a cold front coming in, and definitely seeing something there to look at. It's put me towards someone in the first round leader market in particular, given the conditions. a little bit similar to 2017 when that golfer went particularly well. And then the rest of the tournament, very, very calm and mild conditions. So a little bit softer, a little bit windier on the Thursday, looking at some tee times around that aspect, and then we'll go from there. So let's get into the top of the betting board. Who's shaping up this week and teeing it up at the Porsche European Open? We have Tommy Fleetwood as the headliner at the top of the market, coming over from the PGA Tour, 11-1. Adrian Meronk in next at 20-1. Jordan Smith at 22-1. And Rasmus Højgaard rounds out the top of the board on DraftKings at 25-1. In terms of those guys, I'm going to dig into some of them in a little bit more detail. Some will be put up in the DFS selections, and I've a bit of thought around some of the others as well at the top of the betting board. Also had Robert McIntyre in there earlier in the week. He was at 22-1 on DraftKings. He's now drifted out to 28-1. Not much love for him, and is going to be one of my fades in the DFS category, which we will get to shortly. So, top of the betting board, Tommy Fleetwood, just one miscut in his last 10 outings in a much higher caliber of field, including the top 5 of the PGA Championship, which has to be respected, along with the top 10 at Heritage as well. The price, though, is too short for someone who's coming over, and whilst he hasn't been named in that field for next week's inaugural or opener, will we say, for the LIV Tour, there's still a chance that he could get one of those sponsor exemptions or sponsor invites after all is said and done. So possibly coming over this side of the pond to get a little bit of golf under his belt before moving over to play on that event next week, and then back to the US for the US Open. Adrian Meronk is in there as well. He's 20-1. Very much respected Adrian Meronk this week. Ton of recent form to back up his credentials. He could go well here. Three top three finishes. There's a bit of a tongue twister there in his last 5 starts, as well as the top 6 at the Soudal Open in Belgium a couple of weeks back as well. So plenty to like about Adrian Meronk. Excellent with the flat stick last week. Overall tee to green game is letting him down, but that's somewhat of an anomaly for the Polish golfer. He typically ranks inside the top 10 off the tee. If he can combine the two this week and show a marginal improvement of his approach game, then win equity could be there for the first time at DP World Tour level for Adrian Meronk. Also important to point out, so 5 of the last 6 winners of this tournament as well have also top 10 the week before leading into the tournament. So recent form, if we are picking someone out of the crop that are teeing it up this week, Adrian Meronk is definitely standing out at 20-1. Elsewhere at the top of the board, Jordan Smith, Rasmus Højgaard. I'm going to touch across both of those guys when we get into the betting and DFS portion. So why not jump to who my headline selection is this week? And whilst I touched upon accurate golfers and trying to gravitate towards them, given some of the trends we've seen in the previous data, I can't turn my nose up at the 28-1 price currently available on DraftKings Sportsbook for Adri Arnhuis. And why not get even more juice on the money for us and have him at 33-1 best price with Sky Bet over in the UK, and also Camby Books over stateside and UK as well. Well worth a look at 33-1. So Arnhuis, backing him here, accuracy off the tee is pivotal, will we say, but I've seen a maturity in his golf game compared to the last couple of iterations or last times he's teed it up at this event in particular. It is a bit of a leap of faith. He has miscuts from back-to-back appearances at Green Eagles Golf Course, but his 2022 form has been outstanding, to say the least, up there with Adrian Meronk in terms of recent form, and unlike Meronk, he got that maiden victory at the Catalunya Championship. He's also narrowly missed out in playoffs this year. He cheated up at the PGA Championship as well, finished a respectable 30th in his major over stateside. Length off the tee did prove advantageous. He had top 10 rank for tee to green at the PGA Championship, top 5 rank for greens and regulation as well. So whilst the accuracy side of things does remain a bit of a concern with Adri Arnhuis, I think the maturity levels are improving season by season. The ability to navigate these more difficult courses is on a different level from those miscuts that he had here in 2019 and 2021. So Adri Arnhuis, I'm willing to get involved with him. 33-1 best price on Camby Books stateside and in the UK, and available on Sky Bet as well at 33-1 for users in the UK and Ireland. My next selection is Mikko Korhonen. He's available 50-1 DraftKings Sportsbook. I've seen him move into shorter prices elsewhere, but we'll still make most of that 50-1 price with DraftKings. The Finn, he's coming off 4 top 20s in his last 6 outings, including top 10s at Stein City Championship, one of the longer courses we've seen more recently on the DP World Tour, and also the British Masters as well, where he recorded a top 10 finish. T14 last week, the Dutch Open, so he's ticking the recent box form, which we'll want to look at this week. Drilling down into the numbers during his recent form, the accuracy off the tee is appealing, given that the water is in play on 17 out of 18 holes this week. He's 3 top 20 ranks in a row for tee to green as well. Strong approach game suits set him up very nicely here. And he will get plenty of looks on the greens. Putter can be a problem from time to time. Last week aside, it's been okay, so can't dismiss that game or that element to his game entirely. Happy enough to have a look at him. Looking back over the strokes gain numbers from last year's tournament, where Korhonen top 10, he shot 5 under par in day 2, where he gained 4.5 strokes on these putting surfaces. We're expecting him to play very similar this week. And even on day 1, he was positive with the putter as well. So that tee to green game is trending pretty well for Mikko Korhonen at the minute. We've shown he can putt on these surfaces in the past, so I'm happy enough at 50-1 to take a strong look. His German form as well was another tick in the box for Korhonen. So German tournaments wise, we don't see a lot played over here currently on the DP World Tour outside of the BMW Invitational and this event. And then we have some Challenge Tour events and some Nordic League events we can sort of dig deeper into as well. But the BMW International, he did record a second place finish there in 2018, so another little tick in the box. So last year's showing, the underlying stats for me in the recent form has Korhonen up as a selection at 50-1 with DraftKings Sportsbook. My next selection is another one who caught the eye for me in terms of previous stats at this tournament. And given that we've seen a number of top 5, top 10 finishes from golfers who trend well tee to green but let down with a putter at this leading into this tournament, here is Sean Crooker as well, who had very similar credentials last time around. This time, nothing short of terrible in 2022 to date. 8 straight missed cuts for Sean Crooker before a top 10 finish out of nowhere at the Soudal Open. He's had a week's layoff, didn't tee it up last week at the Dutch Open. So I'm hoping that Soudal Open, where his iron play was dialed in, his short game showed just enough improvement overall, including on the putting surfaces, to possibly give him the confidence boost that he needs coming into this tournament. The putter is the proverbial problem when it comes to Sean Crooker. He's strong off the tee. If we look back at last year's tournament in particular, his off the tee numbers definitely stood out. Approach was also positive, but was losing on the greens consistently every single round, which ended up with a T11 finish. We're taking a bit of a leap of faith here with Sean Crooker at that price point at 60-1. That Soudal performance is going to give him the confidence boost required. We know he has the game to compete at this kind of event. And there was enough appeal from that previous form at Green Eagle to suggest that if he can even remotely improve the putter, that strong tee to green game that he replicated here before and the more recent form is definitely going to have me looking strongly at Sean Crooker this week. So Sean Crooker's third selection up at 60-1. We swap now to the Ryder Cup focus. Announced this week, Mr. Dodo, Edoardo Molinari, he's been announced as vice captain to Henrik Stenson. I had a strong look, will I say, at Henrik Stenson and Edoardo Molinari this week. It's Dodo that I've landed on in terms of an outright selection. So he has a bit of a spring in his step potentially with this Ryder Cup announcement. And then more recently, we can actually look at the golf course and how he's trending there. So 2 recent top 10 finishes at Catalonia and in Belgium 2 weeks ago at the Soudal Open. It's now 6 straight made cuts for the Italian, who is inconsistent with a flat stick, but shows glimpses, including gaining 4 strokes on the putting surfaces in Spain on his way to a T6 finish that particular week. Looking back at last year's performance here across the 3 rounds where we did have the tournament being played, that put him right in the mix. He shot a 7 under par, on day 2 after a weak round 1 performance. So went low, showed plenty of glimpses to put him right in the mix, where ultimately he finished T2 last year, lost 1.5 strokes on the greens on the final day. So that's kind of put paid to his contention, but absolutely showed the tee to green game, showed that he can shoot low around this course and is bound to have some familiarity off the back of that. And also that recent form where he's having a couple of top 10s in recent weeks to put another feather in his cap. So 66-1 price point is definitely appealing in that regard. Approach play last year, very, very strong across all 3 rounds. Even when he opened 3 over par on day 1, in the 2021 tournament. So, Ryder Cup announcement out of the way. I catch performance in 2021. I'm happy to give Dodo another chance this week at 66-1 with DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm going to round out my betting card with a German, and I've seen guys put up Marcel Schneider this week, Matty Schmidt, a few other Germans, even Nick Backham is getting a favourable mention across multiple platforms, it seems. But I'm going to gravitate towards Yannick Paul at 90-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. The former Colorado University graduate was a recent T2 finisher at the Sudal Open. Last week, shot an 83 on the Friday at the Dutch Open. That probably keeps his price at that loftier point here of 90-1. Decent and consistent greens and regulation numbers, giving him plenty of looks, and a strong tee to green game generally at the minute, trending in the right direction. Top 20 as well at the British Masters the previous week to his showing where he had the runner-up at the Sudal Open. Also, recent top 10s at the ISPS Honda Championship in Spain. So a rich vein of form for someone coming in at 90-1 is well worth a look. He's got the home comforts here. He's a German fella. No, he's from the south of Germany, Hamburg up in the north. But in terms of being at a comfort zone and a level, ticking the box in terms of recent form, I'm going to overlook that 83 shot last week in the second round of the Dutch Open. But given that 5 of the previous 6 winners did come in with a top 8 finish in the previous outing, Yannick Paul, that second place finish at Sudal, coupled with those other couple of top 10s, I'm happy to have a recent form golfer here at a juicy 90-1 price in my locker. So let's have a little sip of the podcast juice. This week it is not non-alcoholic because I'm recording during the day. I am going back to my work desk after this. So it's a nice coffee to keep me ticking over. The DFS portion of the show, as always, we look at the DraftKings pricing this week for the DP World Tour. Golfers I've got to then, so 9K range and above, Rasmus Højgaard, 9,800, Adi Arnhuis, 9,600, and Mikko Korhonen, 9,300. I do anticipate some lower ownership around Arnhuis and Korhonen in particular. Højgaard is proven popular across the board at the minute in terms of betting selections, what we say, from the punters out there. So probably going to be a popular enough selection under 10K for Rasmus Højgaard. Just trying to see if I can find what I actually wrote up on Højgaard pre-tournament. So the betting board side of things, he was 25-1, high greens and regulation numbers of late, with back-to-back top 10 numbers for GIR, including number 1 at the field in the British Masters, coming off the top 10 last week, where he opened with around a 66, so there is plenty to like about Højgaard this week. Also, second place finish around Green Eagles in 2019, albeit it was the Nordic Golf League, but at least he's had a look here. Done well the tail end of March, start of April over on the PGA Tour, including top 10s at Corales and top 20 at the Texas Open as well. Looking at some previous tour wins for Højgaard, he won the European Masters in 2021, where Marcus Armitage, Guido Migliozzi, Sean Crocker top 10, all 3 going well around this course in the past. Likewise, his ISPS Honda UK win, we saw Armitage top 10 on that occasion as well. And as a to like in terms of overlap with potential correlations there with previous winners and previous top 5 players, I think he's in relatively good form recently. He's done well over PGA Tour side as well in the US. So happy enough that he is making my board along with the 2 guys, Adri Arnhuis 9,600 and Mikko Korhonen 9,300 that I put up for the betting portion of the show. My fade this week in the 9K and above range, this was quite a tough one for me. I didn't have any really strong conviction. I've seen the market drift about Robert McIntyre, and that probably justifies me putting him up as my fade at 10K. He's one of the lowest GIR numbers in the field, and whilst this dropped down in class from PGA Tour events he's been playing in, he did come back for the British Masters and finished 38th. Given his price point and everything else at the British Masters, I would have expected or anticipated a stronger finish than that. Happy enough to swerve him again this time around. Finished T2 here in 2019, won back from eventual winner Paul Casey. Expect him to be plenty popular when it comes to DFS. So if we're looking at an ownership perspective, I'm happy enough to to take Robert McIntyre on. He's not got much love in the betting market side of things. He did grade out number one in the field off the tee when he did go well here in 2019, but that doesn't seem to be a prerequisite when we dig into the numbers for the event in the past. It's more approach game, general all-round tee to green, accuracy. Those are the kind of metrics that were coming out stronger versus off the tee whenever it came to the previous tournament. So happy enough that I'm going to put Robert McIntyre up as my fade at 10,000. Let's drop down to the 8K range this week. Edoardo Molinari, 8,600. Henrik Stenson, 8,500. And Richard Mansell, 8,400 are the three names that I got to this week. Obviously, Dodo, we've touched upon in the betting portion. He's going to be in there. I was very close to getting the Henrik Stenson as well in the betting portion, but I'm happy enough to have him on side on DFS. Getting for a Ryder Cup duo there. Maybe some other guys will be pairing their DFS lineups in this fashion as well. He's accurate off the tee, decent greens and regulation numbers. Even the miscut at the Byron Nelson, he was hitting 80% GIR and top 10 GIR numbers at the Heritage and Valspar, which correlates with his top 20 strokes gained approach numbers for those particular tournaments. Drop down in class here, coming in fresh though, having taken last week off post PGA Championship. Obviously been a couple of Ryder Cup announcements this week for the European team as well. That could be somewhat of a distraction, but also a little bit of weight off him that he has the likes of Edoardo Molinari announced. In terms of previous form here, he did miscut in 2021, but we've seen golfers miscut this event first time around and go on to win the following year as well. So I'm not necessarily going to hold that against Henrik Stenson on this occasion. Richard Mansell as well, he made the 8K range for me at 8,400. He's pounding greens and regulations to late and two top tens in his last three outings. So it seems, yes, the price point in terms of DFS has increased for Richard Mansell, but I'm happy enough to gravitate to a name there that may not be eye-catching to a lot of other DFS players for this particular tournament. My fade, Martin Keimer at 8K. Yes, he's been playing a PGA Tour level. There's a drop-down in class here. We've seen this before with the likes of Paul Casey. We see Tommy Fleetwood up the top of the board, obviously betting-wise at 11-1. But Keimer, for me, hasn't shown much when he's dropped into home soil. Much stronger performances on paper at the other German event, which he had a couple of second place finishes, the BMW International. It was hard for me to land on an 8K fade this week, but it is going to be Martin Keimer. A couple of other respectable mentions in there as well. So I did have a look at Victor Perez, last week's winner. He made some appeal to me, 40-1 in the betting market. Rounds 3 and 4 in approach were particularly eye-catching at the Dutch Open. And whilst back-to-back winners are rare enough, he has followed up top fives with top 10s and top 20s in the past. So he could be swerved by the DFS community with this underlying thought, if you like, that a previous winner can't go well back-to-back. But for Victor Perez, this course actually might set up quite well for the Frenchman. And I'm not going to assume that last week was a distraction for him, or the come down from last week is a distraction. So happy enough to have Victor Perez sort of floating around in some ownership capacity this week. 7K range, actually like plenty of golfers in here. Richie Ramsey, 7,800. Yannick Paul, 7,700. Matty Smith at 7,500. Sean Crocker at 7,300. They're the ones I'm going to put up in terms of chatting around the 7K range. Generally speaking, I've touched upon Yannick Paul and Sean Crocker in the betting portion of the show. In terms of the DFS side of things, so Ramsey, he has teetered up here all 4 times we've played at the Green Eagle Golf Course. There's plenty of familiarity there for him, including the top 10 in 2017, the top 25 last year as well. He's got a recent top 5 finish at the British Masters in his locker and followed that up at the Soudal Open with top 10 grade in terms of tee to green game. Approach numbers have been just about okay, but he's scrambling very well around the green at the minute, where he needs to, given that. 66-1, can't rule him out in terms of the betting side, but definitely happy to have some ownership with Richie Ramsey on the DFS side. Matty Smith, 2 previous outings here, miscut both times, and he's coming off 2 miscuts in his last 3 outings. So the 75-1 price point about him in terms of the betting side did make some appeal. It seems a little bit inflated for the German. He's got strong GIR numbers and topped 10 earlier in the year at another lengthy course at Stein City where he was top 5. Despite the poor course form, he has top 20 in his last two outings on home soil, with a 14th at the BMW International and a 9th place finish at the German Challenge on the Challenge Tour level event as well here back in September. I had a look as well at Jason Scrivener. He's at 7,200, maybe low ownership about the Kiwi this week, and also at 110 to 1. Couldn't really get to him in terms of outright selections, but may look at some derivatives around Scrivener. Did take a strong look at him, but it's DFS that makes more appeal for him. Not convinced the win equity is there. Tee to green game approach numbers very strong last week, only being let down by a terrible showing on the greens at Bernardo's golf course, where he lost 4.5 strokes on his way to missing the cut. He did make the cut here last year at Green Eagle, looking to build on that, gaining on 7 out of 8 of his last outings on approach. If he can pull it all together here, can't rule out a top 10 or top 20 finish. And with that in mind, from a DFS perspective at 7,200, Jason Scrivener is well worth a look. And then finally, the 6K range in the DFS end of things have Jeff Winter at 6,900, Hugo Leon at 6,500, and Lucas Bjerregaard at 6,400. I've gone with a trio of golfers whose underlying numbers on previous visits to this course caught my eye. We're obviously down in this 6K range. You may find a couple of gems in there. Jeff Winter, for me, in 2019, graded out top 10 for putting. Didn't pull it all together in terms of tee to green. But in 2018, it was role reversal here. He graded out 4th in the field for tee to green, but it was the putter that let him down. If he can pull all that together and get a competitive showing this week, would be much appreciated. We're also looking at a golfer sitting in that 6K range who has relatively recent win equity. It was the end of October 2021 when he managed to lift his victory over in Spain. So yeah, Jeff Winter, 6,900. Happy enough to have some ownership for him down there. Hugo Leon, 6,500. This is a real leap of faith. He was top 5 tee to green here in 2019, lost out with a putter. Form is very weak recently, but the longer course at Stein City was one of his better performances. And he did make the cut at the British Masters, a couple of weeks ago. Seems to like it on German soil, so I'm willing to take a stab on him at a low price point and probable low ownership as well there at 6,500. And finally, in terms of the DFS side of things, Lucas Bjerregaard at 6,400. Again, leap of faith at play here. He's another golfer from Denmark who I'm taking a stab on despite a string of missed cuts, 5 on the spin now for Lucas Bjerregaard, but he's much better than his recent game suggests. During that period, there's been little glimpses of positive strokes gain numbers. He gained 4.3 strokes on approach at the Soudal Open, 2.9 strokes with a putter at the British Masters. It's the inconsistency off the tee that's costing Bjerregaard specifically at the minute. But that, as I've mentioned before already in this show, is not a metric that I'm putting as much weight into compared to approach, compared to overall tee to green, and some of those other aspects around his game. So 2018 numbers here were very eye-catching, graded out 9th in the field on approach, 9th tee to green that time around. If he can replicate that and have some positive memories coming back to a course that he's performed well at before, then Lucas Bjerregaard at 6,400 might be a steal when it comes to the DFS side of things. Best bet then, where have I landed this week? I am going Jordan Smith, first round leader at 45 to 1. Now, the best bet portion of this show, I've tended to look at head-to-head markets in particular, top nationalities, top 20 markets, always at low prices. But this week, I did a bit of digging into Jordan Smith. So I haven't put him up in terms of the outright selections. Don't know if he's going to put it together across all 4 days. He's up the top of the board there in terms of 22 to 1 for winning the tournament. But it's the first round leader market that I have gone to this week for Jordan Smith at 45 to 1 with DraftKings Sportsbook. Also, just while I'm on here, obviously on a live stream at the minute, but just in the UK, we have some odds comparison sites such as Odds Checker. Just want to see what's available out there. Because if you are betting in the UK or Ireland, we have the joys of each way markets, and there's a number of different sports books out there currently that may have Jordan Smith at a better price. Now, I'm still saying 45 to 1. Bet Victor, 5 places, quarter of the odds each way. Betfred, 6 places, fifth of the odds each way. And then, so DraftKings Sportsbook over in the UK, we do have 2 sports books that actually price up the same as DraftKings, the same golf odds provider, and that would be 10bet and Sport Nation in terms of the odds checker screen. So if you're seeing those prices over there in the UK and Ireland on 10bet and Sport Nation, that's going to be the same price you're seeing in the US on DraftKings Sportsbook. The luxury the guys over in the UK have is that they can back a first round leader, golfer each way. So that 45-1 that's available at those two books, you can back him each way. And if he does finish in the top 5 places after round one, there's a little bit of luxury there. So why did I land on Jordan Smith? So strong GIR numbers, accurate off the tee, consistent cut maker. Couple that with his previous win around the course, and it's obvious claims for Smith this week. Very consistent metrics around here in 2021 as well. Lost on approach in round 2 and on the greens in round 3. Otherwise, it was a net positive for Smith on his way to a T11 finish. So I wouldn't be in favour of an outright win for Smith, but it's the first round leader that makes the most appeal for me. Given that the first round on Thursday is going to be a little bit trickier to navigate. The wind is picking up. We've got softer conditions, potentially some rain during the afternoon and morning session. So for him, the conditions that he won under in 2017, we may see a little bit of correlation there. He's obviously gone well at this course consistently. He's had the win before in 2017 and then in very different conditions last year, the T11, where his underlying metrics were very, very positive. So yeah, lots to like about Jordan Smith. He's teeing off nice enough morning tee time alongside fellow Englishmen Richard McAvoy and Ross Fisher. McAvoy also gone well here in the past, and then Fisher, plenty of short-term form. So it's a threesome going out in the morning that could sort of blend off each other and go well overall. So that 45-1 price about Smith on DraftKings Sportsbook for first round leader, it looks a plus EV bet to me. Some other firms have him as low as 28-1. So if you can get a bit of that 45-1, and if you can get it each way, even better. Have a look as well, sort of by close of play today, you may see some derivative markets for the first round. If you are stateside, you can maybe back top 10 finishes, top 20 finishes in terms of first round. And he's definitely worth a look there. So if we do spot any of those on the stateside books, I'll ping them in the Nut Hut after this show. That is it for me for this week. Thank you to anyone who tuned in live, and I will get this up on the podcast network as well. Be sure to subscribe to the DP World Tour show. Also, the Corn Ferry Tour show is out there at the minute, which sits as standalone podcasts away from the good and fine work that DB and Pat has done. I also noticed when I was sitting in the library here ready to record on Restream, I noticed a gem of a video that Mr. Burnett has lined up for you guys from a betting perspective. So once that one hits the Tour Junkies network, I will be all over it. I was fangirling looking at the video that was in the library that has not been posted yet. So once that one lands, well worth looking into. A lot of great insight into the golfing world from the background that I'm from as well. So very, very looking forward to that one once it lands. But that's it for this week, guys. A couple of headline selections there. DFS covered in the books. Let's get some green screens. Let's get some winning tickets. And that is it for this week's Porsche European Open 2021 DP World Tour Show preview. Thank you, fellas and girls, and good luck.